This is Red Ice Radio. From the visible to the obscure. RedIceCreations.com.
Hi friends, good to have you back with us again. Red Ice Radio is available worldwide wherever internet is available. Tune your browser to RedIceCreations.com to follow us on a regular basis. On demand, stream or download at your convenience. And we do spare you from commercial interruptions. My name is Henrik Palmgren. We are based out of Sweden in Scandinavia. And wherever you are from, it's an honor to have you with us as we continue to explore the various facets, angles, and perspectives of the world and our reality. We have researchers, speakers, authors, and enthusiasts with us from different parts of our world, talking about subjects that hopefully will help you to understand more, maybe add to your perspective, make you realize something new, perhaps even offend you, which is a good thing when it comes to understanding your own beliefs. Question everything, especially yourself, and why it is that you believe what you do. George Kavassilas is with us today from Australia to discuss an upcoming global event, something that he calls the pending Global Mind Control event. We have 4 more hours that we've done with George in our archive if you want to get a little bit more on his background. George has always seen the world through different eyes as compared to those around him. From a very young age, he was aware that the universe was full of life and could see and feel life around him more deeply than other people. This included the teachings of the so-called education system, religious doctrines, and society in general, which portray a vastly different and limited perspective. The journey began for George as far back as his memories of this current life allow, to around the age of 5. He has memories of being taken from his bed at night onto ships and being taken to other places on the planet and to other worlds. His interactions with other beings on many different levels of realities have been occurring throughout his life. These experiences with both benevolent beings, of which George calls his greater family, and malevolent others, who have the ability to appear in many guises. George does not have any major academic achievements to speak of, a blessing in disguise as far as he's concerned, though he did study electronics engineering as part of his training as a hardware engineer for the computer company he's working for at the time. Instead, what George has to draw on is a vast amount of wisdom gained through a lifetime of extraordinary experiences. And if you want to read more about George and his background, take a look at his website, Our Journey Home. That is our-journey-home.com. Stay with us for an interesting program on the pending Global Mind Control event. Welcome back to Red Ice Radio, George. It's great to have you with us here once again. How have you been since we last talked here in April? Not too long ago, but many things have unfolded since, and you've been out on a tour, you've been traveling around and so forth. So how have you been, George?
Yeah, thank you, Henrik, once again for inviting me back. It really is an honor, and our life's been very, very busy. We finished our European tour, and then we headed over to North America. So really, really enjoyed going to Canada and then down into the States. Had a little bit of fun with Border Patrol, but, it's always adds a bit of spice to your life. And, really wonderful time at the Assetti Ranch, and then over to Chicago and Boston as well. And like Victoria and Vancouver Island was just wonderful. What a magical place on the planet, and Vancouver itself. So met some great people, really met some fantastic people along the way.
Nice. I've heard Victoria is really beautiful. I'd love to go there at one point. Was it your first visit over to the States, by the way?
It was for me. Cynthia had been there before, but for me it was the first time. And great people there. I'd have to say, though, I feel that the country or the controlling infrastructure there is experiencing or suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. That's what I experienced as an energetic pattern overall for the country. Yeah. But there's a lot of great people who are really trying to, keep that energy in check. So it was great to meet some wonderful people in that country that I feel is playing an incredible role on the planet, because it is the modern day Atlantis. It's certainly is that. And it's kind of like in a mafioso type scenario. It's the muscle man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that's Bacon. Francis Bacon's envisioned the whole Atlantis thing, and I guess they're following through on that. But how would you say it differs from European system of control? For whatever reason, I'm seeing the same thing here. But how was that when you were traveling around, coming from abroad? Did you sense there was a huge difference?
Yeah, it's amazing because each place that we went to, having done the Australian tour and the European tour and North American tour, all within a very short period of time, yeah, we got to experience the different flavors of each country and the, I would say the control systems in each country. I found that the British were quite closely aligned to the US. The Canadians, they were sort of tight, but Canada is more like Australia. People are really laid back and more easygoing, very polite. Australians aren't as polite as the Canadians, though, I must say. We're a bit more raw. But I would say in Europe, having come to Sweden was great. I'm not just saying that to get some brownie points, but we found Sweden very laid back, very easygoing. So thoroughly enjoyed our time there and didn't feel threatened while we were in your country. We thought the people were very nice, and if there is any criticism of Sweden, it would have to be maybe there's a little bit of sterility to the people at some points. Oh, yeah. Yeah, do you feel that as well?
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Yeah, a little bit robotic in their functionality. And it was amazing because we went from Sweden, we went to Slovenia and Greece, and like Sweden and Greece are almost two opposite ends of the emotional spectrum. So
that's right. That's right. No, you're right. I've argued many times that this country has, and the people in this country have been suffering from multiple traumas, and we've become very, very complacent. The reason why you don't see a fist of the New World Order stamping down people here is because they already have been stamped down. So everything is under control and taken care of, and that's the complacency and unfortunately the zombification of the people that have happened here. But we can leave that for another time. That's another kind of geopolitical discussion. But I think your observation overall is absolutely correct, though, George.
Yeah. Thank you.
So why don't we begin to kind of go into the theme, I guess, of our talk here today. We're all very eager, of course, to hear more about what you've termed the global mind control event. You have a video on your website. This is something you've kind of begin to announced a little bit, if you will, and we want to hear about it, George. So give us a little bit on the background on the story here.
Yeah, where it originated from was me just sitting back one day and having a revelatory moment, as you do, and saying, "Hang on a moment, because I was rehashing over in my mind. I was reliving the 9/11 experience when I was sitting there late at night here in Australia. It was about 11:30, just before midnight, and the TV the program stopped and it went straight to showing a tower with smoke coming out of it, and I was just it was a bit surreal, and I was looking at it, and I remember the whole scenario and watching live the second plane hitting the tower. I thought that was kind of strange. It was a surreal moment, but it kind of took most of us by surprise, if not just about everybody. I think there were very, very few people that knew that sort of thing was coming. And of course, we've come a long way since then. We've spent another 10 years of evolution. We've gone around the sun another 10 times, which is quite a journey. And we've got all that wisdom behind us. And I thought, you know what? How about we start to openly discuss and responsibly discuss the concept of the next event that may occur? And I know people have been discussing this, but it's our approach in the discussion. So when I look back at the 9/11 event, which took me and most of us by surprise, was the rhetoric that ensued straight after. What poured out of the media orifices, for want of a better term, be it the television, radio, print media, internet, was mind control program. It was NLP. It was words that were being repetitively used, and the patterning and the repetition of those words and the style in which those words were used and the imagery was a mind control event. And if we look back at that time in a responsible manner and rational and logical and realistically, we can actually see that that whole thing was a global mind control event. And it was all about creating, not only just changing our laws, but creating a perception within people's minds. And so if we now can look in our present moment and say, you know, we're overdue for such an event, and you look at the way your mind is functioning and my level of awareness and our friends' levels of awareness and the people that we are associated with, and you, of course, Henrik, who gets to talk to great people all around the world, and you're seeing all these different perspectives, and there's a lot of people who are quite awake. I mean, the internet radio stations like yours, like Red Ice and so many others, have brought about a much greater awareness in people around the world than what has ever been before. Mm. So the kind of events that are associated with the 9/11, like the death of Saddam Hussein and recently the death of Osama bin Laden, they were really quite futile events. They were another mind control event. And I'll say it was a very poor attempt, because people's awareness is so far beyond that old program. Like the techniques that were used for the bin Laden announcement were quite similar to the 9/11 announcement. Mm. And we've come a long way from that. So that level of mind control technique is now quite ineffectual towards the greater majority of the masses. It only grabbed very few. It was no big deal for so many. And the next one, what I'm trying to warn people of is the next one is going to be huge, because there's going to be the new level of technology that will be implemented. And I don't know about how you've been feeling within yourself lately in the way of headaches, in the way of pressure behind the eyes, in the way of your sleep patterns and what have you. But I'm quite sensitive to these sorts of things. And through my experience in my life of having dealt with all these mind control programs that have been imposed on me personally, I'm quite sensitive to the techniques and the energetic patterns. And so is my wife and many others who haven't had the experiences I've had, but still have a sensitivity to these techniques and energetic patterns. And we're all sensing that the mind matrix is being turned up a few more notches. Mm-hmm. In recent times. You can feel the spikes happen. They're happening now. They're utilizing like energetic patterns within our solar system and within our journey of our solar system through the galaxy. So with the solar flares and with certain ritualistic dates, you can feel, we can feel the juice being turned up and the intensity. I'm calling it the big squeeze, because this reality is still continuing to be squeezed, and we are continuing to be squeezed, because as our awareness is expanding and rising in frequency, our consciousness is literally increasing in frequency. They have to try harder to keep us contained. And so the amount of energy and the amount of effort that they're putting in to hold us down is increasing. And so we're being squeezed between, our consciousness rising and them trying to hold us down. So it's kind of like the lid on the jar or a pressure cooker situation, yeah, where the pressure's increasing. And, because, often people have said this is a process that will happen slowly over a long period of time, and I just don't agree with that. I always try to put myself in the shoes of the controllers to look at it from their point of view. And so one way to really understand is to access our own dark side within us and say, okay, if I was a dark overlord, which must have been at some time in the journey in this universe, how would I have gone about it? And, these entities are they're feeding off the human race. So that sort of energetic charge that they're getting has never been so powerful for them anywhere in the universe due to the amount of energy we access through our codes, having, being fractals of the universe itself. So for them to lose that resource is like death to them, because they won't have anywhere the power they currently have. So they're going to hold on for everything they're worth. They're actually going to throw everything they possibly can at the human race right now, and they are. And there's I've talked about the different levels of deception at play, but really, Henrik, this next event that will occur, it's going to be a big one. And they're going to use very advanced techniques and technology, because what they need to do is place us, the human race, deeper into a trance, because they need to funnel us in a particular direction. And, and the direction is, again, it's the model that I present. Is that this reality, this planetary consciousness that we call the Earth Mother, she's no longer willing to facilitate this kind of energy upon her body. So she's going through changes. And like I've said before, this current reality is winding up. It's in the process of dismantling. It's deconstructing, and the evidence is everywhere for that. And I mean serious scientific evidence. And, with C12 morphing to C7 and things like that. So there's a whole lot of evidence out there that are showing that this reality is deconstructing. And so the human race is going to be taken, well, they're coming to harvest their human herd. So how are they going to go about it? And, what I wish to share with the people is to help bring about an awareness that there is beings out there who have an intention of harvesting their herd, and they want to do it through a set of programs that, if you just look back through history, have worked quite well. But now the game's changing, because we're changing. We're changing exponentially. We're changing at such a rapid rate that they now have to bring out the big guns. And the next event that will take place is going to be so big. And whether it's going to be a series of events or one event, because we look at Comet Elenin. Is it going to be Comet Elenin? And that seems to be quite a debate out there at the moment. People say, do you think it's going to be Elenin? Do you think it's Nibiru? Is Nibiru coming? How about World War III? How about a nuclear detonation? That's still on the cards. I don't rule that one out. I will say up until the end of this year, it's still on the cards. After that, I don't feel that the energetic patterns on Mother Earth will allow for that to occur. But between now and the end of the year, that's a possibility. And for me, the creme de la creme has to be, well, let me put it this way. What is the most powerful mind control program on the planet now? What has got more people mind controlled than anything else?
TV, media.
Yeah.
Or I think about something else.
Yeah. I would say that's the tools for mind control.
Right, true.
The latest set of tools to mind control. But what program has got more people inside of it than anything else? And it just has to be religion.
Religion, you're right, yeah.
Okay, you're talking at least 4.5 to 5 billion people out of 6 or 7 on the planet that are already within that mind control infrastructure. You're talking about 1 billion Christians. We're talking about 1 billion Hindus.
Yeah.
We're talking about 2 billion Muslims. You're talking about 0.5 to 1 billion Buddhists. Do you know what I'm saying?
And even if they weren't, practicing whatever, area they're in, that has a religion, if something would happen, I think that those people quickly would rush to the religious authorities in their, in their country to try to explain whatever happened too. So I think that you can add that on top of it, I think.
Yeah, I would say that because we can easily get caught up in the individual, what I call individual drama vortexes. So if you look at Comet Elenin as one drama vortex, then you can look at Nibiru as another drama vortex. You could look at the financial collapse as another drama vortex. World War III, a whole lot of scenarios, ones that I haven't mentioned. Fake alien invasion, that's another good one. There's another drama vortex. Now, all these are very real possibilities, but they're individual drama vortexes. So what I'm trying to do with this subject of this pending global mind control event is to get people to come out of these individual drama vortexes and out of the drama vortex of arguing whether it's going to be this or that, because it could be one out of all of those, or it could be two, or it could be all, or it could, do you know what I mean? It could be a number of them in whatever order.
Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make here is let's not get caught up in the argument of what it's going to be too much. Let's not make that the main point of focus. Let's make our main point of focus is that there is something coming. It's going to be really grand, whatever comes, and that we can be forewarned and forearmed, and that whatever plays out, we can say within yourself, the individual can say within oneself, well, I've been expecting this. So let's look at the rhetoric that's now pouring out of the televisions, pouring out of the print media and the radio and what have you, and not allow ourselves to be sucked in to the drama vortex that's going to be created globally with the next major events that are going to play out.
Yeah. I mean, if we look at it overall as a whole, entity, from my point of view anyway, it is an ongoing trauma-based mind control experiment that we're seeing with all of the events that you just mentioned that we have seen unfolded basically since 9/11 in one way or another, with the economy, with the even the Elenin stuff and everything. I feel on some level it's designed to catch whatever flavor, individuals out there happen to kind of go for. And in a worst case scenario, you're kind of sucked into all of them, if you know what I mean, George. And this is, I'm not saying that there won't be a bigger or a big event taking place as well on top of it. But from my point of view, Jesus, it's bad enough already, isn't it?
It is horrendous already. The barrage, the onslaught that our psyche, that our mental states have to deal with, and our emotions has to deal with on a regular basis. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's these next ones that are going to occur going to make 9/11 look like an experiment in a petri dish. And I'm not saying this to instill fear into people. I'm looking at this from a responsible point of view of forewarned is forearmed. And, you can have a real lighthearted approach to this. Like I often say, if you keep a stash of popcorn in your cupboard, and when the events do play out, you get the popcorn out and sit back and watch the show. And, It's a far more lighthearted approach. As silly as it sounds from one perspective, it's a very lighthearted approach, because if you can within yourself be prepared that there is going to be an onslaught onto your mind, and it is going to attempt to brainwash you, more so than what we're already exposed to, then the battle's half won, because you can straight away say, I don't like the feel of this. You don't actually have to watch it. People might just turn the telly on just to keep an update, watch it for a couple of minutes and then turn it off. Yeah. And then just go about their day and let the rest of the world play that drama out.
I like George Carlin's, the late comedian, his observation of he had a point in terms of basically being an observer of social hysteria, just watching the freak show unfold. And he said, for a while I was emotionally invested and trying to fix people and change them and do this and that, but after a while it's all like, all I can do now is just watch the madness unfold, and he had a kind of a humoristic way about it, of course, but I understand it. It's a way of dealing with it, because I think there's nothing we can do individually in a way to try to change people's perception about these things. I think the more you invest in it, you're actually just going to add to the hysteria in one way or another. So all you can do is to actually, as you say, George, take a step back, watch it for what it is, and try to kind of hold a frequency of calmness in the in the chaos that might be unfolding.
Yeah, well, Henrik, from the bigger picture, collectively the human soul asked for this, and we all individually and collectively asked for this. So in the model that I've presented, it's kind of like graduation time. It's a testing time. It's to see who's going to hold integrity, hold center, and who's going to be swayed or lured by these programs that are on offer on this planet at this time, because of their original intention of, we're about to achieve our intended outcome of not only coming to this planet, but also it's the end of a very long journey of entering into this light-based construct of the universe to begin with. So there's many of us who are ending that journey, and we're about to achieve that. We're about to become creators of this light-based construct, because we've earned it, we've achieved it, we've done everything been everything this universe has had to offer. And there's many of us who are on this planet that know this about ourselves, and many people who are in the process of realizing and remembering that about themselves. And there's many other people who aren't going to go through this time. That's just the way it is. We didn't all enter this universe at exactly the same time. And so the other people will continue that process on another planetary system that is currently being set up to continue the process there. So the point I was trying to make with this pending global mind control event is to bring about an awareness to people to say, you know, this next one is very, very, it's going to be very intense, because it's not going to be done by, let's say, an Illuminati group on the planet, which is what we've been exposed to, who have been the pawns of this off-world cabal. Now, these next ones that occur, they're going to have a far more direct hand in the process. And so we're going to be exposed to much grander levels of technology, far more sophisticated levels of technology, energies that are really going to stroke us far more deeply and reach into us deeper than it ever has before. And I'm not making this up, and I'm not trying to do fear-mongering here. Like I said, this is about self-empowerment. So by discussing it openly, by bringing it to people's awareness that you've got these entities that are coming to harvest their herd, and this is how they put it to me. You know, I've had these interactions with these off-world cabals, and this is their words. They're coming to harvest their human herd, and that's how they see humanity and as their resource.
George, I mean, are we talking physically, like we, reap the corn on the field, or are we talking about energetically here? What do you think?
Oh no, absolutely physically, and in part, astrally. There will be beings, and I'm saying this categorically, there will be beings who will come and pose as angels of light and take people out of body on the astral body, and they will think that they're being taken by a deity to a divine light. And they're not. Their astral bodies are being taken to a synthetic light construct, which is labeled divine light. And I've talked about this extensively, Henrik, because there's people on the planet now that are creating Merkaba light bodies. And you can do that. You can do it. I once had a go at it, but my memories came back of the times that I had on a cosmic level of being someone who created synthetic light constructs. And sure, you create it from, the energy of your own essence feeds this light body that you create, but the Merkaba template is a mathematical template. And when you create life via a mathematical template, you are creating a synthetic life construct. You see, mathematics does not come first. People like to think that it does, but it does not. Life comes first. Mathematics is a quantifiable language that is used to define and describe life. So you've got people that are very right brain who will look at life in a more flowing and ebbing and creative sort of way. And then you've got people that are very left brain who look at life from a much more nuts and bolts perspective. And it's the people that are more left brain orientated that require the numbers and the geometrical constructs so they can comprehend the construct of life. And those, because you could look at the table that you're sitting at, and that table has a certain length to it. Now, numbers are arbitrary. You can use whatever, you could apply whatever set of numbers you like to measure the distance of the length of that table. Mm. And so the desk will always be that desk. But whatever numbers you apply to it will be up to you. It'll be from your perspective, your paradigm, your language. So the point I'm trying to make here is that there are people who on this planet today have been creating a light body using the Merkaba template. And it's a mathematical construct. And let's say, let me give you this example. You create a light body. Your essence creates that light body. And you use it to move around with. And it's quite a euphoric feeling relative to what we've been experiencing in this life here. But relative to the true essence of your light, of who and what you are, is beyond mathematical construct. So the Merkaba vehicle only applies to the lower domains of the universe where there is this mathematical construct taking place. It's not your pure essence of who and what you are. So I can create a light body, and let's say I can say to you, Henrik, or somebody else will say, come and join me in my light body. So now someone else comes along and two people's essences are now feeding that light construct, and it grows and it gets bigger. And two people are enjoying the bliss and euphoria of that light construct. And then you bring in a third person and that light construct grows and gets bigger. And you bring in someone else and someone else and someone else. Now, if I created that light construct to begin with, that means I am the principal and primary entity controlling that light construct. But everybody else who comes in after that becomes a part of it, and their essence is, their energy is feeding that light construct and helping it to maintain it and to grow in power, and therefore I grow in power. So all of a sudden I'm becoming a bit of a god. And this is what's happened over eons of time in the universe, where you've got these entities that have created these synthetic light construct. Because, this universe has been around for a long time, Henrik, and it's important that people aren't so naive about life. It's time for us to grow up again and get a handle on how things have been going, how beings have been functioning in this universe for such a long time. And you've got beings out there who created these light constructs, these synthetic light constructs, and have assimilated over a long, long period of time to the point where there's hundreds of thousands of ET races that have been assimilated into these paradigms of light. Now you've got entities, and some of these paradigms are so big when you enter inside of them. And I'm saying this because I remember being inside one of these paradigms. And when you look up, you will see it'll be as though you're looking at a whole universal paradigm. And you have spiritual hierarchies like angelical hierarchies, ascended master hierarchies. These are common labels that we're used to. And you think you're inside a universal paradigm. And the entity that sits at the top of that paradigm plays God. And that's the point I'm trying to make. Just because a being who can shapeshift can come here and present itself as though it's Jesus, and then can take you out of body and take you to the so-called divine light. And relative to the life that we're having here, that'll be a euphoric experience. And I just want to warn people not to be so naive, that's all, because we have a lot of deceptive programs on the planet, and the programs that that are being implemented here on this planet are coming from off-world, intergalactic, and virtually interdimensional, but they only go as high as a fourth dimension. But that fourth dimensional paradigm is so big, it is the biggest arena in the universe, and it has many, many, many layers in it. Which and that's why people, when they were in the lower realms and they look up to the higher reaches of the fourth dimension, there's all these beings of light up there, of these synthetic light constructs, and everyone thinks at the top of that's God, and it's not. Life goes way beyond that.
Exactly. I mean, if we've been starved, George, for such a long time when it comes to, I don't know what you call it, a true spiritual experience or even connectivity with the, higher realities, whatever you want to call it. If we've been prevented to access that in different ways, we've been, capped by religion and other belief system, basically, whatever we would experience that just slightly goes above that, from our point of view, if we're not, savvy enough, we would perceive that that's our, that's heaven or what have you. It's very simple, I think, for if the even, and I think even this could be done with the technology, but I guess that's what you're saying, is that these synthetic light constructs that you're talking about, in a way, is a technology, correct? That's like a device, a tool that is being used to entrap people, entrap souls, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And some of them can appear very organic, because they need to, because they want to fool beings and continue to fool beings. And They appear very, very organic in nature, but they're not. They're of a mathematical construct, and they are synthetic in nature. If you have the point of reference of deep in your heart and your own essence, that is my recommendation to people. Then you will feel that the love that you feel deep within your own heart, within your own essence of self, that love that you sense there has a different flavor to the love that these synthetic light constructs offer. And when you're in these synthetic light constructs, they have a more shallow, even though it's all about love and light, and it is, and that's what these beings are going to sell to the whole public arena very soon. It's going to be all about love and light, Henrik. They really do need to win the minds and the hearts of the people, and it's all about assimilating people inside these constructs. And, they've been working on us for 6,000 years in a very intense way. And their master plan right at the very end now is about to be implemented. And I'm just, trying to warn people, because when we talked about whether the next big event is going to be, Elenin or a financial crash or World War III, at the end of it all, all these events, whether it's one or a series, at the end of all these possible scenarios and events, they will, and I guarantee you this, they will lead to a religious deity. Because these entities need to harvest their herd. They need to maintain the integrity of their herd, and they need to feed, and it's got to do with numbers as well, not just a few. The notion of the New World Order and culling back to 500 million or whatever is such, it's just not going to happen. There's no way that that's going to happen, because that notion is propagated by more the on-world cabal. We're talking their overlords, the off-world cabal, who feed constantly off the devotion, of the adulation, and the worship of the human race. They're the ones that are coming to harvest their herd.
Interesting. Well, if you think about it, we have more and more people coming onto the planet. In many cases, the quality of most people's lives isn't that great, and it seems to me that you have a feeding of the negative energy as well. And at a certain point, because the conditions are so, sparse, negative, basically, if you had the right type of deity, whatever, showing up, people would imagine how they would focus and center all of their attention and energy, and even love, then, in that sense, form of energy for them, I guess, onto this one figure. But you're saying also on top of that it's a physical harvest that is going to happen.
Absolutely. It will be, because the conditions on this planet will get to the point where this vibrational level of reality as you see it, Mother Earth herself, the crust and the natural environment on the Earth Mother herself. It's the way to understand this is to put yourself in the position of being this planet. So see yourself as this planetary body, and you have upon you the crust as you see it, and you have upon you the natural environment as you see it. Now, when you look at the natural environment, everything is killing everything in order to survive. So it's total consumerism, and it's totally barbaric. So as a being, if you are now completing a cycle of life, and you're now going to go through the process of leaving that state of being, like we are as individuals, we're going through this process of no longer functioning from a lower vibratory perspective, from desire, from violence, from greed, from lust and desires, and all those lower vibratory perspectives and states of being and energetic patterns, that we are now going into a state of more of harmony, of co-creation in a positive way, and not just a positive way, because that's just one side of duality, but in a way that's going to be wonderful for the growth of all beings involved. Something that takes everybody's soul and life into consideration in a respectful manner, and we don't consume anything in order to have to survive. That we live pure, we are pure energy, and that consumeristic way And therefore that destructive way of life is no longer applicable. So as a planet, you don't want that anymore. So therefore the crust and the natural environment that is upon your planetary body needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point that I've been trying to make for a very long time, is that Mother Earth is changing, and she needs to rid herself of her lower ego just as we do. Because this journey that I'm having with this planet, I know is a symbiotic journey. So at this, I incarnated at this point in time to go through this process with our Earth Mother. So as she changes, I'm changing, we change together, and we become this new way of life together.
Mm.
And that's why I'd say in my talks about our Earth Mother giving birth to this new way of life. And so the old must deconstruct. It's kind of like this, Henry. You've got an old bathroom that needs renovating. Well, in order to renovate that old bathroom, to have a new bathroom, you've actually got to dismantle and deconstruct that old bathroom so you can have a new one there. And it's the kind of same thing. This reality needs to deconstruct so we can have a new reality. Because you can't, a lot of people say that, well, we're going to just, have new technologies and everyone's going to love one another and we'll all go back to nature and everything's going to be wonderful. Mm-hmm. Well, it's a contradiction. You can't have a group of enlightened beings walking around on a planetary body that's completely barbaric. You're a love and light being and you go for a walk in an African plain and you've got a pack of lions mauling a zebra to death right next to you.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
You look up in a tree and there's a bird hacking a worm to pieces. You look in your garden and ant colonies are having wars with one another. I mean, I'm just trying to be realistic, not ideological. I'm being realistic, but from a much greater perspective, realistic from a more cosmic perspective, that here you have a planetary being who herself is saying, I don't want to be like this anymore. I've facilitated this journey for you long enough. I've had enough. I've been in pain for long enough and I'm done. And I don't know about you, Henrik, but I'm done. And I say to people, are you done? Because I'm done. And I know Mother Earth is done. In all the communications I have with her, she's done. So she's going through these changes. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so the method, if you will, then, that we have been living through, and yes, history argued we don't know where we come from or how long we've been here really, but as far as we know, the experiment, if you will, so far has been on this, if you will, a predatory kind of system. Obviously, things eat one another, each other, in order to sustain their own life. And I personally think that there's nothing wrong per se with that. It's just been, that's the function of how life has been, permitted to continue basically. But what you're saying is that these parameters will change. And also obviously included into that is that you can't have the same set of parameters or this system continuing while, us then human beings all of a sudden are supposed to change and not live according to these rules and laws. The environment that we live in will have to alter with our behavior of that, correct? This goes hand in hand with each other. You can't have just one part of it here, correct?
Yeah, because wherever you go throughout the cosmos, the overwhelming majority of life is in harmony with its natural environment around it. So the set of experiences that one wishes to have by incarnating into that particular reality is also facilitated by its environment around it. So you need a frequency match. You need to have, we have descended because the natural environment never used to be like this, and neither did the human race. We've been on devolution for many cycles now. And, we bottomed out in the Dark Ages. That's why it was called the Dark Ages. And we've been ascending for the last few hundred years. It started in what was called the Renaissance. So ascension is not something that's to come. We've been already at it for a few hundred years. Mm-hmm. And we're just at the very end of that process right now, that's all. And, yeah, wherever you look throughout the cosmos, it's a symbiotic thing. So if you look at the way we've been behaving here on this planet for the last let's say a few millennia, you can look at it that we have become very consumeristic and very barbaric. And when you look at the natural environment, we have a natural environment that reflects that facilitates that. So we're immersed inside we're swimming inside an energetic paradigm that totally facilitates those sets of experiences.
It's like a computer program. You have certain sets of rules and laws in there, and if you have a character, if you know what I mean, George, inside of that environment, how can it behave differently? It has to abide to the rules accordingly, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And what's happened now was this human form that was created. The reason we went into this path of descent from, the golden era that once was, the Garden of Eden, so to speak, whatever label you want to give it, was to test this human form. And this latest version of the human form being a being that holds all the codes, that a being that is a fractal of the universe, universal consciousness itself. So we needed to be tested, and now we're right at the very, very end of that whole process. And we are being tested to the nth degree to see if we can actually hold center, if we can maintain our integrity through this next little while, because those who get lured, those who get caught up in those dramas, in those drama vortexes, they are not ready to become creators of this universal light construct. Because you can't start creating your own universe using this construct called light and expect your own creation within yourself to spiral out of control, because you have beings that have entered your universe to experience it and are now taking control of your universe from within. It can't be allowed to happen. So those of us who make it through this time will be able to, qualify, so to speak, for, I'm just using earthly terms,
sure.
Which really don't do it justice, to be honest. We graduate and become these creators of this construct we call light. We've earned it. We deserve to have it.
So if we again then look at that this also is obviously a war on our consciousness, on our soul in one way as well. If we just go back as a comparison then, because I want to see what the global mind control event, what that could be like, or if there's comparisons, and what I can recall from the 9/11 event, there's so much you miss, when this thing is unfolding as well. I mean, even 10 years later now, there's new information coming out, things you even, I remember seeing basically the same news report. I think it was like maybe a couple of years after 9/11, and then rewatching it again. And I recall certain things in there that were mentioned. It's almost like I can see that you have as things settle down, if you know what I mean, George, you get a bigger peripheral view of things. The most dangerous part of the trauma-based mind control is that you are traumatized at that moment, right? Even if you're not maybe emotionally invested in these towers or even the United States that is being attacked, even if that is not happening, there's still so much you're missing and not comprehending, right? So that's the trick here in one sense, not to be suckered in and fooled by all of this, is to try to remain calm in a moment like this. But it's so difficult, isn't it?
And it is. And one prime example of that was during the 9/11 event was the Pentagon incident, because I remember looking at that footage and saying, "Where's the plane?" And I'm kind of looking and, I'm moving my head about the room thinking I'll get a better angle on it because it's just a natural thing to do, as silly as it was. I couldn't see a plane. And then that footage was never played again. And then I kept getting told over and over again that the plane hit the Pentagon. And so I allowed myself to believe it. And contrary to what my own eyes saw in the early footage. And it was amazing because I saw a documentary later called Hidden in Plain Sight. And on that documentary, I urge anybody to see that one. They've got the original copy of the CNN footage of the person standing there, and they're showing the Pentagon before the roof collapses. And there is no way that a plane hit that building. There is no way. You go back and look at that footage. There is no gouged out marks on the lawn. There is only a tiny hole in the side of the building. Where is the plane wreckage?
Yep.
There is no plane wreckage on the lawn. There is no wing marks where the wings hit the side of the building. There is nothing. And I just went, crikey, they got me good there, because I thought back and I said to myself, I knew it. I knew at that moment I didn't see a plane. And then I allowed myself to be mind controlled,
Convinced,
to be coerced. Yeah. Coerced into believing that a plane hit that building, and it did not. And you go back and you look at the original footage, and there is no way a plane hit that building. There's no plane there. There is no wreckage, no bodies, no nothing. And that's the fascinating thing. I mean, when the building is exposed, there's filing cabinets with papers, with books. I mean, if a plane hit that building, where is the fire and the fuel and the, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just absurd.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make here as well, Henrik, is that this next mind control event that's going to occur is going to be really powerful. Don't underestimate what's about to occur. And this isn't fear-mongering. This is preparation.
Can we talk a little bit about what type of technology do you think is going to be used with this? Because you're saying basically they're gonna wheel out their black ops stuff. I mean, I'm not saying they haven't done that before, but it seems to have been more careful than that. I mean, yes, we understand there might have been planes, there might not have been planes in the whole 9/11 thing. They might have used, who knows, projection technology, missiles. There might have actually been remote controlled planes, etc. But in that regard, it's not that super advanced. Maybe the bringing down of the tower, as Judy Wood argued, obviously that's a sign, a signal of some very, very, advanced technology, if she's correct. But at the same time, it's not something that is, if I put it this way, visible or noticeable to everybody at first. This is something that you have to dig to kind of rediscover almost, if you will, afterwards. So this technology is not being used out in the open. But what you're saying is that in this case, we might actually see that, right?
Well, we're definitely going to feel it and experience it firsthand, because this is going to be global. And the type of technology what this technology will do will try and reach really deep. It'll reach deeper into you than other technologies have before. And what it'll also do is play on your ancient memories. So they understand that everybody that's incarnate now, if you look back in history and you look back in the times of ancient Greece, ancient Rome, all the big civilizations and the Atlantis and all that, and we call them the ancients. We always refer to them as though they're someone different. The reality is it was us back then. And we've been here to this planet many times over, and we've played different roles and different scenarios in different empires and different civilizations. We are the ancients. It's not someone separate from us. And there's people who played significant roles back then who are also playing significant roles now. And there's people who had significant roles back then who are totally insignificant now. So it's chopping and changing and vice versa. And so what they will do is also, because this is deep, this is not only in our genetic memory of our bloodlines that's come down through the ages from those times, it's also they have studied us greatly, and they understand how we feel when certain ancient memories are reawakened. But because our history has been wiped out and a certain version of history has been presented, we kind of have these emotions from back then, but in our current conscious waking state, we don't know how to process those feelings and those emotions because we can't attach them to anything tangible, if you know what I mean. And so they will have this magnificent ability to, it's kind of like playing a keyboard. It's kind of like a musician. They're going to want to stimulate certain ancient memories. Let me give you an example. This is, for me, this is probably the, I would say the biggest one. This is one that I had a revelatory moment of late. And I also had a discussion with a friend of mine, Leonie, and my wife, Cynthia, and her husband, William. And we had this very, very deep discussion about this subject matter. And this hasn't been discussed out there very often because there's a lot of people who are waiting for Antichrist to turn up. And it seems to be male-oriented. And what I'm here to share with you here today also is what if, and this is a hypothetical that I'm posing here, what if it's a female deity that ends up being the one right at the end that comes back to guide the human race? Now, there's many reasons why I'm saying that. Now, having said what I've just said, there's going to be people that'll be up in arms because I'm a big proponent of the divine feminine, and I still am. What I'm warning people about here is not the real divine feminine, but an energy that will pose as though it is the divine feminine. And
yeah,
the
that
reason
makes sense, though. Sorry to cut you off, but well, of course they would do something like that. It's the perfect, cover in that sense, right? Because usually we attribute this kind of level of evil and wickedness to the male, if you know what I mean. So this would be perfect for them to do that. And furthermore, it doesn't really matter what vessel this entity is coming in anyway. So, but go ahead, George.
Yeah, if you look at it from the point of view as, like you just mentioned, it's kind of the perfect scenario because what this does is it plays, what we've had switched off is, in our nervous system, it's what we've got laid dormant is the mother archetype because we've had all male deities within our spiritual teachings for so long. So the nurturing and the heavenly mother archetype has been laid dormant for such a long time. And because we've had this really dark, negative, male-orientated energetic surge, which has lasted at least 2 millennia, for now, if something feminine was to come along, then that would be such a relief. So many people would be relieved and they would think that we're done with as far as control goes because now we have this beautiful sort of Mother Mary type figure or it'll depend which culture you're from. It'll be presented in so many different, wonderful ways. And not saying this is going to happen for sure. I'm just, putting this forward as a very real possible scenario.
Yeah.
Because once again, looking at it from their point of view, if you have a female deity, then that just, as the coordinator, it just covers all areas. It brings about this feeling of nurturing, of peace, of comfort. And it's that because the female motherly sort of cosmic, godly, motherly, nurturing archetype, like in the Christian religion has been what they call the Holy Ghost or the Holy Spirit. It's been something so far away and not quite tangible.
Yeah.
And when they have, you have an apparition of something to do with Mother Mary, people are falling to their knees with tears in an instant. So it's almost like, for want of a better term, the perfect storm.
Yeah.
It's something to really consider seriously. And, I said to you, Henrik, I'm a big proponent of the divine feminine. She has made incredible sacrifice for us. It's just looking at it realistically, as above, so below. So behind every great man is a great woman. And so if you have, I'm not the sort of person who is easily fooled. Do you know what I mean? I'm one of the greatest skeptics on the planet as far as, people think that's a crazy statement because I talk about UFOs. I'm not a skeptic. No, actually I see myself as a real skeptic because those other skeptics are just defenders of the status quo.
Yeah.
So not real skeptics. So you and I are skeptics, Henrik, because we question.
That's right.
And we really question everything. So we're the real skeptics. And I know that through my life's experiences and other life's experiences that evil is not exclusively a male thing.
Absolutely. if people are hungry, you know, for something new, for change, anything could go. They appeal to the emotional first and just kind of bypass the rational. I mean, seriously, think about it. How many people do you think voted for Obama because he, you know, who he is as a politician or his achievements? People are so superficial, you know, so that they basically, oh, it's time for change, you know, let's vote for somebody who's black for the sake of that, you know. And same thing I think would apply to a woman in this case as well. And even, I'm not saying that this would be a voting situation, but I'm saying this bypass the rational and just speaks strictly to the emotional, and it just again demonstrates how superficial people are. And it's all about the external and the appearances, not for human beings, for who they are or what they've done, you know? Crazy.
Oh, it completely targets the wounded child archetype within each of us. Having come to this reality and being exposed and be, you know, so disconnected from the rest of life in this journey into separation here. And we all have this sense of abandonment within ourselves. Some more than others, you know, it varies in people, but it's still there, and it'll just target that beautifully.
Talk a little bit about some of your websites here at the end of the first segment here. We're going to carry on and talk more with you, obviously, in the second. There's much more I want to ask you about. I want to ask you actually about the whole fake alien invasion thing as well on top of this, if you believe that this is a part of it, if you believe that this is a separate issue, basically. But we'll get to that. The few websites here that we want to give out then, obviously, is your personal one, Kavassilas.org.
Well, I'll say that one's in the process of winding up a little bit. We've created a new website, and that one is our-journey-home.com or our-journey-home.com. And the older website, which was georgekavassilas.org, is kind of in the process of winding down. But if you go to either of them, or even if you go to the old one, there's a link to the new one. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Our Journey Home or our-journey-home.com. We will have that link up as well on the website. But stay with us then, George. We'll continue more after